Morning, morning, morning. It is Monday morning. It's absolutely beautiful outside. It's 12 degrees, it's crisp.
The morning commute to the city, London's financial district. Every day, 300,000 people commute to work here amid fears that Britain is now Al-Qaeda's #1 target.
Raised in Britain and a member of Al-Qaeda. Today, the prosecution outlined how Barot wanted to blow up a tube train as it passed beneath the Thames.
I'm Christiane Amanpour. For the last 10 years, London has been my refuge from the conflicts raging overseas. But now, those conflicts have erupted right here. Nothing has been the same since suicide bombers struck London's buses and tubes.
The head of MI5 has warned that the terrorist threat faced by Britain will last for a generation.
British intelligence says it knows of 30 terrorist plots.
The people being encouraged to attack us are young, British-born Pakistani Muslims, groomed to carry out appalling atrocities.
Inflammatory headlines spread Islamophobia.
Muslim women who wear the veil are not aliens.
And Britain's Muslims wonder how they fit in.
If we're not careful, we will have bloodshed on our streets based on race and faith. This is something serious.
It's been dubbed Londonistan, the hidden world of London's homegrown Islamic extremists. They are a tiny minority of Britain's 1.6 million Muslims, but they have no trouble getting their voices heard.
One day, you will conquer Rome! One day, you will conquer the White House!
Anjem Choudhury is the public face of Islamic extremism in Britain. His group, Al-Muwajirun, disbanded before the British government could outlaw it under its new anti-terrorism rules. But that hasn't shut Choudhury up.
Whoever insults Islam or insults the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam deserves capital punishment.
That was Choudhury's inflammatory rhetoric just days after Pope Benedict's controversial speech about Islam.
Pope Benedict, you will pay! Pope Benedict, you will pay! The Mujahideen are on their way! The Mujahideen are on their way!
Outside Westminster Cathedral, British Catholics looked on in disbelief.
They can stand outside our church and abuse us, and abuse our religion and abuse people that we hold dear with absolute impunity.
So the simple question to the Christians is, do you condemn what the Pope said?
Well, I don't condemn.
Do you condemn the Pope?
What he said?
Yes or no? So you don't. Do you condemn the Pope?
If any of us was to amble up to, the mosque at Regent's Park and sending in regards to Allah or Muhammad or what have you, best case scenario, taken away by the police for inciting racial hatred. Worst case scenario, attacked by a bunch of thugs wearing tea towels on their heads.
Democracy, hypocrisy! Democracy, hypocrisy!
Even away from the bully pulpit, Choudhury, who is a lawyer, not a cleric, continues to advocate extremist views, like calling for Sharia, Islamic law, for Britain.
All of the world belongs to Allah, and we will live according to the Sharia wherever we are. This is a fundamental belief of the Muslims. If I was to go to the jungle tomorrow, I'm not going to live like the animals.
Basically, a lot of what you're saying is, it's my way or the highway. I mean, how does that kind of logic fit into a democratic state like the one we live in now and like the one you live in? You live here by choice. Do you not believe in democracy?
No, I don't at all. We believe that people must live according to the Sharia.
That would mean in a country such as Britain, people would have their hands cut off for robbery, would be stoned for what you call adultery, hanged. You can see that happening.
One day the Sharia will be implemented in Britain. It's a matter of time. Whether it comes through our peaceful discussion and debate, whether it comes because the Mujahideen will send an army one day, Allah knows.
An Islamic army coming to lay down the law in Britain? What do people think in Walthamstow, one of London's biggest Muslim neighbourhoods?
Lovely! Animal, pound the ball!
Ishmael, would you like to see Sharia law in England?
Sharia, what's that?
Islamic law?
Nah, I'm Muslim myself, but like for someone to tell me that's the law of the whole country, the whole land, I think it's wrong. This is a free land. Everyone's entitled to what they want to do, you know what I mean? It's not Taliban here.
It's not the Taliban
Yeah, it's
here.
not the Taliban out here, you know what I mean?
But you wouldn't know it at this traditional Muslim wedding that Chowdhury has come to officiate.
In the West, they want to say equality between all people, between men and women. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us different. And surely He has given man authority over the woman. He has given him qawama because he provides food, clothing and shelter.
We never saw the bride or the female wedding guests. They were segregated in different halls. But we were invited to witness the nikah, the dowry agreement between the groom and his father-in-law.
Ya Allah, please accept this nikah to have been conducted in accordance with the Sharia.
And even at this wedding, Chowdhury preaches holy war.
Ya Allah, please bless them with pious children, and will continue the jihad to liberate our land. Ya Allah, please support all the mujahideen wherever they are in the world. في العراق, في شيشان, في فلسطين, في الكشمير, في الجزيرة العرب, في الفلوجة, في الدارفور.
But how about those who carried out the London subway attacks on July 7th, 2005? Chowdhury gives an ominous answer.
I'm not planning to blow myself up on the underground or carry out a martyrdom operation in Britain. However, those people who maybe will be doing what Muhammad Sadiq Khan and Shahzad Tanvir and others did, probably because of the same reasons which they included in their will. So I think you really need to look at that.
This is the videotape will of one of the subway suicide bombers, Mohammed Sadiq Khan.
Until we feel security, you will be our targets. And until you stop the bombing, gassing, imprisonment and torture of my people, we will not stop this fight. We are at war and I'm a soldier. Now you too will taste the reality of this situation.
Those reasons that they included in their will, are those reasons justified in your view or in your view of Islam?
I think we have everything we need in those wills.
Where in the Quran does it justify the killing of innocents?
I'd like to get on to another question because I've answered that question already.
Have you, in the Quran?
In the video of Muhammad Sadiq Khan, he quotes the verse in the Quran, which is chapter Tawbah, verse 111, where Allah says, He has purchased from the believers their life, they will kill others and be killed.
Muslims all over the world, I strongly advise you to sacrifice this life for the hereafter.
There are mullahs, imams today who say that the suicide bombers have really done a lot of damage to the reputation of Islam. They're saying that the kinds of things that you are saying is in fact damaging the religion so much.
I mean, you're obviously just making a statement here. There's no real question there. The fact is, people don't refer to you for Islam. They refer to people like Sheikh Abu Bakr Muhammad, people like Sheikh Ayman al-Zawahiri, people like Sheikh Osama bin Laden. I happen to be in an ideological and political war. My brothers in Al-Qaeda and other mujahideen are involved in a military campaign.
You call them your brothers, do you mean that?
Of course,
Al-Qaeda.
every Muslim in the world is my brother.
These people, ladies and gentlemen, have a good look at them. They actually think if you kill children, if you kill women, you would go to heaven. You have no chance in hell. And you are a lawyer, Mr. Chowdhury. Can I speak? I'd like to say that this is not an ideology, it's a mental illness.
And stopping it from spreading may be the most important battle for Britain today. Like most British Muslims, Ed Hussein grew up in a hard-working household of immigrants from colonial India. As a child, his parents would bring him to pray here at the moderate Brick Lane Mosque in London's East End. But they could never have predicted the journey he would later take into the heart of radical Islam.
Ed, what makes a young teenager from a pious Muslim household become a radical?
In my case, I think initially I was duped. It's a slow, gradual process, developing ideas that were confrontational, that were radical, that were extremist. Nobody questioned me other than my parents.
Tired of their questions, he ran away from home at 16 and immersed himself in political Islam that was taught here at the East London Mosque.
I bought this book here
and it's prominently displayed there, attached to the mosque.
The book Milestones is by Syed Qutb, who advocates using Islam to seize political power.
We have realized that attacking the non-believers in their territories is a collective duty. So it's being sold as a religious duty to kill innocent people on the basis of their religion.
And Qutb's ideas still form part of weekly lectures at the mosque.
So here's an event linked to Syed Qutb Maududi here at the East London Mosque on a weekly
Wednesday evening.
The author Qutb, for example, of this particular book is the same man who is an inspiration to Bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri and others. So these are the godfathers of Al-Qaeda.
Those running this mosque declined to answer Ed's criticism. But back then, Ed was soon searching for something even more radical, like this message of Muslim separatism.
We can just about read it, stay Muslim.
Stay Muslim, don't vote.
It's to prevent Muslims from becoming part and parcel of the system here, but to keep them separate. And this is a message put up by a group called Al-Muhajirun, which is an offshoot of Hizb ut-Tahrir.
Allahu Akbar! And just this week, Al-Muhajirun were protesting the arrest of 6 members on charges of inciting and financially supporting terrorism.
It's the ideology which is to remain separate from mainstream Western political discourse.
And that ideology was the next stop on Ed's road to radicalism. You joined Hizb ut-Tahrir?
Yes.
Ed says he was a campus recruiter for Hizb ut-Tahrir, whose long-term goal is a sort of United States of Islam, a caliphate, ruled by fundamentalist Islamic law called Sharia, just as it was 1,000 years ago.
It was here that I and extremist organizations in the mid-1990s and even now found it easy to recruit, because people in these parts of Britain don't have a clear identity as to who they are, whether they're Asian, whether they're Muslims, whether they're British. We claimed that India, for example, was Muslim land to be conquered again by the army of a coming caliph. That was the sort of rhetoric we were putting out, and nobody questioned us.
So we went to question the spokesman for Hizb ut-Tahrir, who openly admits they are working towards a caliphate.
Today the Muslim world is a very unstable place. Under Islamic rule, under the caliphate, there was stability even in Palestine. Jews, Christians, Muslims lived in harmony under an Islamic political order.
What you say sounds, reasonable, but clearly your methods are suspect, because you're banned in just about every country that exists, except for this one.
No, we're not at all. Though let's be clear that it's the tyrants in the Muslim world who are afraid of the revival of the masses. And as for the British government, if Blair seeks to ban us, he's going down the same road as the tyrants in Egypt and in Sudan.
We've obviously talked to some people who've been inside the group and members of the group, Ed Hussein, for instance.
Well, Ed Hussein was never a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir. We need to have our facts very clear.
So you're denying that?
That Ed Hussein was a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir, absolutely.
And as a recruiter for Hizb ut-Tahrir?
He was not a member.
That's false. I attended cell structure meetings for 2 years. My direct instructor was Farid Qasim. It wasn't anybody ordinary, it was a deputy leader of Hizb ut-Tahrir. I radicalized this entire college. In 2 years, there were Muslim women walking around in veils and face covers, Muslim men going around putting up posters.
What turned you off this strain of Islam that you were propagating?
One afternoon I was studying in the library and I heard young British Muslim students were shouting Allahu Akbar aloud as if they were at war in the Middle East. And then soon afterwards, we classified at the time as a Christian student, was stabbed in his heart and he fell here and he died. That, to my mind, was, Britain's first Islamist murder.
Ed says he left Islamism there and then, but that it would take another 10 years to fully decontaminate his mind.
Why did you write this book?
It was written because all around me in Britain I see a form of Islam that's being developed which is highly literal, deeply political and exceptionally confrontational.
Are you not afraid?
I am afraid, but I feel that my duty to fellow human beings is more important than my duty to Islamists.
Hanif Kadir is a youth worker in Walthamstow. Overnight, he discovered that he was on the front line of Britain's battle against terror when police arrested 14 young men in his neighbourhood.
There's a minority, in the schools that actually believe, this is Muslims and non-Muslims, and this is very shocking, that blowing people up is quite cool.
That blowing people up is cool?
It's quite cool, yeah.
Last August, British police descended on Walthamstow, saying they'd foiled a conspiracy to blow up a dozen US-bound airliners with liquid explosives. This set off the biggest security alert since 9/11.
I got an email about this. So I put the question to some of these guys, and the answers that I got back is, when a bomb goes off in Baghdad or in Afghanistan and innocent women and children are killed over there, who cares for them? So if a bomb goes off in America or in London, what's wrong with that?
Indeed, a poll in the Times of London showed a shocking 13% of British Muslims believe the London subway bombers were martyrs. And many British Muslims see the Iraq War as a war against Islam, against them.
We're talking about England here. We're talking about young Muslims who've grown up in this country. I think people would be really stunned to hear you say that it is essentially foreign policy which is causing youngsters to blow themselves up on the subway system and youngsters to think that that's cool.
Foreign policy has a lot to do with it, but it's the minority radical groups that use that to get to our young people.
And some of those young Muslims are easy prey because they believe the British government crackdown is scapegoating them, as when Minister John Reid came to talk to Walthamstow parents.
There are fanatics who are looking to groom and brainwash children, including your children. So all I say is look for those telltale signs now.
One of those fanatics was in the room, waiting to pounce.
When they come to your own houses, when your house is raided, or your sister's raided, you'll be just as irate as I am.
Omar Brooks, a self-styled religious leader of an extremist group that is now banned.
I'm not going to fall for extremist rubbish.
Now he's went in there and he's shouted and he's hollered at everybody, and everybody thinking, yes, this guy's went against the system.
Come on. I'm outside. Where's your freedom of speech now? Over there.
They're considered to be heroes, for the younger guys. Yes, get in there, He's telling them how it is.
It should not come to a Muslim area. We don't want to see John Reid. We don't want to see Tony Blair or any of your cronies.
It's very easy for them guys to then come back into the community and have a lot of supporters.
These people, many of them self-appointed clerics, are dominating the national debate and certainly the debate within Islam right now. They are the loudest voices. How is that possible?
Because our scholars who have educated themselves to preach Islam are not coming out of their holes, their mosques and their holes, to engage with these people. They're frightened of that.
So Hanif is desperately trying to fix that, trying to get the mosque elders, many still stuck in the tribal traditions of Pakistan, to communicate with the younger generation.
I like to ask these young people, because I'm the part of the committee of next door mosque, which young man come in the mosque and mosque has refused him?
How many times you, the community leaders, have tried to engage with us, the youth? I want to know.
Sometimes young people like you go in the mosque and the older people praying and you disturb the prayer. We know about you young people what you do. Some of you, no, listen to me.
We're not attacking the mosques, we're attacking the elders.
What do you think is your most serious problem right now as young Muslim men in England?
We feel like the youth have been called the enemy within because they're blaming us on being terrorists, they're blaming us on being suicide bombers when they have no right to actually accuse us.
If I was walking down the street, right, with my mosque hat on, with a beard and everything, they'll think, you know what, straight away, terrorists. They'll think extremism.
Extremism can thrive amongst kids who see no way out of their ethnic ghettos.
They're into all kinds of vices. They're into street crime, gun crime, drugs, car theft, credit card fraud. But then you've now got another threat.
What's the new threat?
The new threat is radicalism. It's a cause. Every young man wants a cause.
So Hanif's cause is to break the ice. This time in a pool tournament between the police and the young men who often find themselves on the wrong side of the law.
On the street, they just hate the uniform at all. So just to break them barriers, I think it is a brilliant idea.
It is unusual to see it, but like, it's quite good at the same time because like, the kids and the police are mixing together. I personally think it's a great thing.
All it takes is just one pool tournament. And it wasn't just the game, it was them being here. They were in the same room having a laugh and a joke with the same guys that they've arrested many times and may arrest again. But you know what? They've got one thing in common now, they're playing pool. And the young people got a chance to beat them.
On behalf of the Metropolitan Police, this is for the Active Change Foundation Pool Tournament,
big up.
October 2006. Well done.
It's a good start for Walthamstow, but it is only a start.
You can be Muslim and you can be British, you know? Like you can be Christian and you can be British. You can be Jewish and you can be British. If the British-born Muslims really want to do something to stop people damaging Islam, then start reading up on your book. Explain it to your children. Come out of your denial phase. The only conspirators against Islam at the moment, right, and the biggest threat to Islam at the moment is our enemies within.
Gonna build a dirty bomb, use this privilege and education.
Bombs and the backlash seeping even into song. How far will it go?
A suitcase of Semtex, a mobile phone trigger, blow them all to hell for $1 million figure. I reject your truth cause it's all a lie. Reject your proof and American pie.
Rejection has been Aki Nawaz's thing since the days of punk rock. Aki's latest blast against the system and his angry new album sum up what many young British Muslims reject today. The war in Iraq, the war against terror and all its infamous abuses.
Why is the cover of your album so provocative?
It's provocative because I find it represents American foreign policy, which is far more provocative than any piece of artwork has ever been.
And you can't get much more provocative than this track, Aki's song and video about making a dirty bomb.
I'm 31, numb, but the hurt is gone. Gonna build a dirty bomb, use this privilege and education. My PhD will free me, paid off the Ruskies from weapons-grade uranium. A suitcase of Semtex, a mobile phone trigger, blow them all to hell for $1 million figure.
I decided to write this track called Cookbook DIY, how a common man can make a bomb, how an educated man makes a bomb, and how a scientist from the White House makes a bomb. And I was trying to say that morally they are all as repulsive as each other.
I insist, I'm a legitimate scientist, paid by the government with your finances. There's less radiation so you get a cleaner bomb. It's your money, people, because they're billion.
When you put out these songs about dirty bombs or benefits of jihad, does it ever cross your mind that young people who might be inclined to take that and run with it in a violent way might do so?
That'd be like me saying, you know, I'm angry because I watched Rambo. Hollywood is making films. You are making documentaries about terrorism, about the current situation, blah, blah, blah. You're allowed to do all this stuff. But me as a Muslim who's been asked that question just again exposes the kind of pathetic intelligence that's rife out there, where one rule is for one and another rule is for another.
But it is in fact Muslims who have been blowing up planes and hijacking planes and taking them into buildings, going onto subways in your own capital.
As far as terrorism is concerned, we can't even touch the immensity of state terrorism that's gone on by the West.
You mean that?
Yeah, I absolutely mean it. Right across the globe, even in Europe, people are sick and sick to death of the American foreign policy.
Aki Nawaz may be on the cultural cutting edge, but his take on America is becoming mainstream in Britain's Muslim community.
Let's see what a wonderful surprise.
This so worries the United States that it sent its ambassador Robert Tuttle and his wife Maria to reach out to Muslims here in Britain. Today they're visiting Birmingham's Central Mosque.
But if I was to strap a bomb to myself and go into Birmingham city centre and blow innocent people up, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. My religion is Islam, the religion of peace. Likewise, what America preaches and its actions don't go together.
And at the end of the day, until you can have free elections and open dialogue like we're having here now, then that's when you truly have peace.
You can't bring democracy to Iraq if you bomb, cities and kill children and men and women, and they're not going to love you. If you kill my child, I'm not going to love you. I'm going to hate you. And this is what he has done. So, Mr. Ambassador, I know you're a nice man. How can you defend Mr. George Bush's policy? And I hope as soon as he goes, Mr. Bush, and somebody sensible comes in power in America, we'll be very grateful.
Let me say first, let the record show he said I was a nice man. So let's not forget that, all right? I've known President Bush for almost 25 years. He's not anti-Muslim. He's not anti-Islam.
But the ambassador can see he's facing a tough audience. Still, he cannot afford to ignore them.
It's the largest mosque in the United Kingdom, the largest mosque in Western Europe. I think that's the reaching out and the discussion and the dialogue is what really counts here.
And that gets more critical by the day, especially in Birmingham, Britain's second largest city with its largest Muslim minority. Muhammad Ali is a Birmingham artist, also known as Aerosol Arabic.
Transforming a wall and an outdoor service into a piece of art in itself, this is so exciting.
He rose from painting graffiti on city walls to displaying his art in museums and stately halls.
It is actually a guy who's making adhan, the call for prayer. God has given me a gift which is the ability to paint. So I'm using my skills which I might have to be able to try and make a change in society. You see something negative and you actively go to change that.
Muhammad Ali's reaction to the negative atmosphere is to practice what he paints.
People are increasingly becoming disillusioned or they're being led astray. This is not the way. I mean, I've done workshops with kids and I say to them, if you've got some issues, put it onto a canvas, paint, express yourself.
And that is quite literally the aim of Muhammad Ali's new project, a giant street mural that he'll be painting on the side of an Islamic nursery, along with students from a multi-faith high school.
The whole mural is supported by the Reverend John, who's a chaplain of a local college. And we have the headmaster here. He's a faith-based Islamic nursery. Everybody engaging together and working on this mural together, to me, it's a really powerful thing.
We're about to redo everything, so this has come at a perfect time.
Okay, guys, you ready?
In a flash, Muhammad turns into Aerosol Arabic and this ugly wall into a piece of street art.
I'm going to give you the same cans. So basically, we're going to have red, orange, yellow. It's kind of blending up to the top. Do you understand? First of all, shake your can as well.
None of these students has ever even wielded a spray can before.
It's nice. It's nice to change. It's good. I like it. It's my first time.
What you need to do, see, as Tony showed you, you're solid and blending up like that.
I just think it's great that people from across the communities are coming here and united to produce a piece of artwork like this. It's the issue of the day. Unless the communities work together like this, we haven't got a rosy future to look forward to. We need to do more of this.
We will have various icons from different faiths in the form of architecture. So we're going to have, St. Martin's Church, and then we have the Birmingham Central Mosque to kind of represent the unity of the people.
I think it's good. It promotes like brotherhood. Non-Muslims alike, they think negative of us. So it's nice to have that image to show that, you know, to bring us closer, if you know what I mean. So it's a good thing.
The views of Islam in Britain have taken quite a knocking. To see an expression of Islamic faith in a very interesting art medium is all to the good.
That's the great thing about graffiti and this outdoor art, taking art on the streets, because it's art for the people. Look at the kind of people around you here. These aren't the people that are going to be going to the nice big galleries. This is art going out to the people in an accessible form that young and old can say, you know what, I like this. It's transforming something ugly, because believe me, that war was ugly.
While Muhammad Ali tries to transform the ugliness that's dividing Britain, from his recording studio, Aki Nawaz is trying to make sure that every Muslim child here grows up to question that ugliness.
All I want my kids to know is that they have absolutely every single right that the British people have. They're allowed to dissent, they're allowed to be provocative, they can be a part of society or put the middle finger up at society.
We've come
Muslim women take on hot-button issues
we got the door slammed in our face, and I had to start
in Britain's war within.
Well, if Christians wear the cross, Jews have the Star of David, Muslims have the crescent moon, what symbol, if any, should atheists have? Well, you have been in touch in your drove since we aired this at 10 o'clock. Aisha, one more from you.
Chris says the symbol for atheists must be a flame to remind Christians that they used to burn atheists.
And, Aisha Hazarika likes to confront hot-button topics head-on, whether it's on the radio or before an audience at a London comedy club.
My name is Aisha. I'm from Glasgow.
I gig in some very, I guess, very white areas. They are probably very fearful and very hateful of Muslims because of everything that's happened. So I walk on stage and I can sort of see people thinking, what's she doing on stage?
It's a really weird time being a Muslim in the sort of political climate. It's definitely worse for boys, though. My brother gets a really hard time. Someone shouts out to my brother the other day, "Oi! Bin Laden." And he's like, "No, I've been shopping, you twat."
It's not often that you hear a light version of anything to do with the Muslim culture right now, because everything seems to be so intense, so extreme, and so full of fear.
The debate is all seen through the prism of real anger and mistrust, and it's quite a tinderbox sort of situation. So I think when someone offers people the chance to just laugh at something to do with Islam, I think people take real relief from it.
I'm quite a moderate Muslim in a kind of wine-swilling, bacon sandwich chomping kind of way, but that hasn't stopped people being very hostile towards me. And a couple of days after the bombs went off in London, this woman phones me up at my office and she goes, "Aisha, just want to let you know, nobody blames you."
And then she follows it up with lots of, you mustn't blame yourself. I was like, I didn't until that point. Thanks.
So you really felt there in that one phone call that society is looking at all of your community in that weird way.
Up until that point, I think I sort of had distanced myself from it, but then suddenly thought, I guess I am a Muslim, and people must think, well, you're a Muslim, part of your community did this, you're sort of guilty by association. There is a lot of really massive stereotyping going on in society at the moment.
And nobody has been more stereotyped than women who wear the niqab.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
The complete face veil. That's become a lightning rod for controversy after a teacher was suspended for wearing it on the job. Rukia Ghani is just another anonymous figure in the crowd, but her veil now says more about her than her face ever did.
Do you feel part of the British culture, part of British society and life?
Absolutely. I find it quite a bizarre question to be asked. I've been, been born in this country, brought up here. Everything about me is pretty much English.
What's the most common question that you get asked?
Why? Why do you cover? Why do you do it? We just don't understand. And I see it as an obligation of my faith.
Actually, the niqab is more about culture than the Quran, just like the fact that more than half of Britain's mosques don't allow women to pray inside.
We've come to pray Jummah prayers.
That's why these Muslim women are trying to get their foot in the door.
It's a police door and we got the door slammed in our face, and how does that make us feel as Muslim sisters? I am so disappointed. He just shut the door on me.
We don't have a space for the woman.
And this debate continued on the air.
That's just a very small flavour of the reception a group of Muslim women got when they tried to pray in a London mosque with the men. But it's now the right time to be fighting the battle of the sexes within Islam. Catherine, how was this experience for you? Why did you want to pursue it?
Because it is an intrinsic right in our religion. You know, according to Islam, we have this right to go and pray in mosques, but because of cultural reasons, you know, the older generation in some mosques in this country are excluding us.
You're not supposed to show your face to the man. We're not asking to have the rights in the mosque and take over the mosque. All we want to do is come and pray. At least slam the door properly, love.
I think this is absolutely the right time for women within Islam to be having these kind of debates. And if more and more women were allowed to have a greater role in Muslim community, it would help temper some of the extremism, which is ruining things for the whole community.
How delicate is the situation in England?
I think the situation is incredibly delicate. The majority of Muslims in this country are very passionate about their religion, but they're also moderate people. They're also passionate about their lives that they've created for themselves in Britain.
Like Aisha herself and her family, who made a cross-cultural leap when they moved from India to Scotland.
When my dad first moved to Glasgow, one of his patients said to him, "Where are you?" And he said, I'm a Muslim. And they were like, aye, but what kind? A Rangers Muslim or a Celtic Muslim?
Football terms. That's good.
I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
And what was he?
He said, no, whatever you are.
We want to remove this idea that Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is not a religion of peace.
Will growing Islamophobia push British Muslims even further apart? The battle for Islam is, in the end, a battle of ideas. And tonight, on the campus of the prestigious Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland, there'll be a debate between mainstream Muslims and the self-appointed apostles of Islamic holy war.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phil and welcome to This House Believes That Islamist Violence Can Never Be Justified.
The small group of Islamic extremists who turn up at every rally and protest in Britain have come here to Ireland to debate moderate clerics who say their religion has been hijacked by the likes of Anjem Chowdhury and Omar Brooks.
And verily we are the Muslims. We drink the blood of the enemy. We can face them anywhere. That is Islam and that's jihad. And our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ana dayyuq qattal." He said, I laugh when I kill. And he said to his own people, Wallahi, laqad jittukum bid-dhabh. He said, I come to slaughter all of you. So anybody who wants to stand in face of the Muslims, he will face the banner of jihad.
There aren't many people following the banner of Omar Brooks, yet he and his colleagues here have loudly dominated the public debate about Islam. But tonight, the moderates fight back.
These people, ladies and gentlemen, have a good look at them. They actually think if you kill children, if you kill women, you would go to heaven. You have no chance in hell. And you are a lawyer, Mr. Chowdhury. Can I speak? You are a lawyer and you would know that you can't go to heaven except if you claimed insanity. This is not an ideology, it's a mental illness.
It's a common thing to say that the enemy, you know, they eat the babies, they kill the children, they're fundamentalists, and that happened during the Second World War. There's a lot of propaganda. What are Muslims supposed to do when they're being killed in the streets in Afghanistan and Baghdad and other places in Palestine? Do they not have the same right to defend themselves? In war, people die. People don't make love, they kill each other.
We want to remove this idea that Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is not a religion of peace. There is evidence in the book of Islam called the Quran sanctioning violence.
But does the Quran really sanction this kind of violence? No, says Sheikh Shahid, who has spent a lifetime fighting apartheid and Islamic extremism in South Africa.
These extremists claim to know Islam, but the a la carte version of Islam. They seem to portray God and his messengers as cruel and uncompassionate monsters. I demand them to provide proofs from the text of the Quran, the holy book of Islam.
Chapter number 9, verse 29. What does Allah say? Fight those who do not believe in Allah and in hereafter.
To decipher the Quran, we visited the same East End neighborhood where our journey began to talk to Imam Usama Hassan.
They say, but look, these verses in the Quran that are quoted justify this kind of violence. What's going on?
Those verses are nearly always taken totally out of context and nearly always ignoring the spiritual aspects, the aspect which talk about forgiveness and repentance.
Few people here have studied the Quran as closely as Imam Hassan. He had memorized it by the time he was 11, and at 19 he briefly fought in the jihad against communists in Afghanistan. But he says there is no justification for violent jihad here in Britain.
If you have the wrong intention, you could justify your criminal actions from any text, whether it's a Quran or Bible or Shakespeare. There are passages like that in the New Testament where Jesus Christ is alleged to say, think not that I have come to bring peace, I have come to bring the sword. That's a famous quote in the New Testament. But clearly most Christians don't misunderstand that to justify terrorism and wanton violence.
What is your reaction when you hear this book, the Quran, and those words taken in vain to justify what you've called crazy Islamic terrorism?
It makes me furious. The people who do that kind of action and who support it are a very tiny minority, but it only takes a handful, of course, to create devastation.
And that is why Imam Hassan's message to his flock at Friday prayers is so urgent.
Many people are terrified of Muslims. They are terrified of a brother walking down the road with his Eastern dress and his hat and his beard, because they have seen these images associated with suicide bombers. And it is up to us to dispel that fear, to smile at people, to tell them the message of Islam is not about bits of cloth, it is not about the beard or the headscarf or the face veil, or about violence. It is about peace.
No one knows who will win Britain's battle for Islam. Will it be those fighting the new jihad to claim back their faith? Or those who want to use religion as a weapon? The outcome will resonate far beyond these streets.